Hey everyone, my name is Sean and happy Halloween to you, however you are choosing to spend it this lovely week. And this week on the channel, I'm going to be doing some kind of spooky decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy of the Duelist Evolution to kind of celebrate the happy season. So today we're going to be looking at an evil deck, the most evil decks of them all. We're going to be looking at Evil Eye. And I thought that the main character of this deck looked a lot like Callan Kessler from 5Ds, that being Xerxeo here. He's a good boy. And so he is going to be our avatar for the day. Evil Eye. I was incredibly surprised by the quality of this deck. I didn't realize it was going to be as good as it is, and I actually liked it so much. I almost want to buy this deck in real life and play it in locals because, man, this deck has everything. It's not very often when I go to do a breakdown for a deck and I break down the archetype and go, here's the starters, here's the extenders, and realize, hey, this has everything. This has starters, extenders, removal, defense, and game options. It has literally everything you want it to do. It has a variety of different effects. It has different ways to remove cards of the field, and it has a few weaknesses. But other than that, it covers a lot of bases without actually going beyond the archetype, which is really, really impressive. Good job, Konami. This is actually one of the better designed decks that I've seen since, say, Salamangreat. This is really, really good. And it wasn't always that way because they released some of the cards in waves. I don't think a lot of these monsters were in the game, and I think it was mostly just Xerxeo, the Field Spear, and Selene. But all the other support they've added for this deck makes this deck really, really good, very consistent, and very, very fun to play. So let me give you a quick overview of what this deck does. As you know, most decks, they like to summon about a boss monster, which is their win condition, ideally from the extra deck, or something from the main deck, like your good old Blue Eyes Chaos Max here, or things like Borrow Soul Dragon. But Evil Eye takes it a different approach. Instead of summoning monsters to the field in order to make in order to summon out your boss monster, this deck just wants you to make your cards into boss monsters, and it does so through the card Evil Eye of Selene. See, whenever this card is equipped to one of your Evil Eye monsters, any monster that this is equipped to cannot be destroyed by battle, card effects, and it cannot be targeted, which is a combination of Borrow Soul's effect and Chaos Max's effect all in one. Now you may be noticing, oh, but your cards are really, really weak. Well, that is true, their attacks are very, very low, but Selene covers that too. And anytime an Evil Eye card, spell or trap card, is activated, or the equipped monster's effect is activated, you lose 500 life points, but then that monster then gains 500 attack. And when I say that you can get to some ridiculous levels of attack, I think the highest I ever had was making our boy here into 6,100 attack, I believe. 6,600, yeah, 6,100 was the highest I ever made this card, and it is a beast. You know, outside of like kaijus and non-targeting banishing removal, like I say, evenly matched, it's really, really hard to get your boss monsters off the field. So let's stop back and sympathetic and let's talk about how this deck works. So the main starters for the deck is Xerxeo, Watcher of the Evil Eye. When you normal summon this card, you can add any Evil Eye card from your deck to your hand. A great target for this is your field spell, Domain, and when Domain is activated, you can add any monster from your deck. And so they can link into each other. Xerxeo can search Domain, Domain can search Xerxeo, and then whichever one you don't have after doing the search, you then use that card to go and search out something else in your deck. It's really, really good. Now, we also have some cards that work in the graveyard, so we're playing Foolish Burial, and also Foolish Burial Goods, because we have a really good spell card for the graveyard, and Terraforming to search out Domain. Now, I am currently playing Pot of Extravagance, but now that I've tested this deck out more, I don't think this deck needs Pot of Extravagance. Yeah, sure, we don't have a lot of extra decks in the archetype itself, but there is enough special summoning to go on, and enough way to get multiple monsters on the field, where you could technically not use Extravagance and actually make good use of your extra deck. So I'm going to let you guys know now, I love this deck so much that I will be revisiting it in the future and testing it out more. And one thing I'm going to do is maybe try to find 3 different starters to take the place of Extravagance, maybe like Guide of the Underworld because we play level 3 Fiends or something like that. And then see what this deck can do without relying on it. But the only thing this deck doesn't really have is draw power. It does technically in the form of Repose, but not really good draw power. It just does mostly searching, which isn't bad. So Pot of Extravagance doesn't hurt the deck nonetheless, and at the moment it's fine for the purpose. Extenders. This deck has a lot of extenders, and that's always what you want to see with a deck, and particularly since a lot of these extenders are not just extenders, they overlap. So let's talk about the ones that overlap first. we have our field spell, and we have, yeah, our field spell was in the starter card set. Okay, so Pareidolia, or Domain. When this card is destroyed by a card effect, you can target one evil eye monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand. This is relevant for a card for Xerxeo's effect, and I'll talk about what Xerxeo does and why he destroys cards on the field a little bit later on. Now, when I talked about doing Foolish Burial Goods and Foolish Burial, the card that you best want to send to the graveyard for Foolish Burial is Pass, Familiar of the Evil Eye. For when this card is in your graveyard and you have an Evil Eye on the monster of the field, you can just summon this card to the field, which makes link climbing a lot easier. Now, the partner to this card is Basilius. While Catapulpa summons itself from the graveyard, Basilius summons itself from your hand. So you want to add this to your hand, and you want to have this one to your grave. Now, they're kind of partners in crime, they both do similar things, but Basilius has another extender effect, and that is during the main phase, it can Foolish Burial, a spell and trap card, Foolish Burial Goods, a spell and trap card from your deck that's Evil Eye to the graveyard. And for Foolish Burial Good and for Basilius, the best target to send to the graveyard is Evil Eye of Gorgonio. This is a counterpart to Selene in that when this card is on the field, it takes the name of Selene, but it has a really great graveyard effect, and that is while this card is in the graveyard, you can banish it, discard one Evil Eye card, namely Catapulpa, because then you can summon it back from the graveyard, to then add and search out any Evil Eye spell and trap card from your deck to your hand. And so that you should, if I piece it together, let's say you have Foolish Burial as your opening star, you can send Foolish Burial, play Foolish Burial, send your Gorgonio, then do Gorgonio's effect, discard your Catapulpa, and then use Gorgonio to search out your field spell. Then play your field spell then goes get Xerxeo, play Xerxeo then goes gets Basilius, and then you can summon, with Xerxeo on the field, you can bring back Catapulpa on the field from the graveyard, Basilius from your hand to the field, and then you've got a link 3 set up already, just from one card. It is fantastic how these cards work together. I'm really, really impressed by this deck design. Konami, you did a really good job with this deck. Now, once again. Now, other extenders for this deck, and we got some really good ones for you. Evil Eye Awakening. This card is incredible. This is a monster reborn. Summons a monster or a dark magic veil. It summons a Evil Eye monster from your hand or graveyard. But if Selene, Gorgonio or Selene is on the field, you can then summon one from your deck. That is crazy. There aren't many cards normal spells that summon from your deck. In fact, the one that is the most noteworthy for me is a banned card that was banned long time ago called Last Will, which summoned out a 1500 or less attack monster from your deck and then shuffle your deck. It was incredible to have this card, and Evil Eye have their own version of it in the form of a spell card, which is crazy. Absolutely crazy, fantastic extender. Medusa, I only play this card at 1 because main effect requires you to normal summon it, and we've already got 3 normal summons, so in a 40 card deck you don't want more than 4 normal summons. But Medusa, when she's normal summoned, recovers an Evil Eye card from your graveyard, so it's the reverse of Xerxeo. And then she has a quick effect as well, which we will cover later on. I've never ever played Medusa, but I do feel like there will be situations when you're grinding that having her could be really, really useful. And the fact that she can recover cards, and not just a spell and trap card or something like that, means she can get back one of your stars like Domain or Xerxeo, so you can then use that again for more searching. Foolish Burial Goods is also a good target for Foolish Burial Goods is Metalfoes Fusion. This card is what was used in Sky Striker a lot, who also played Foolish Burial Goods. And basically, when this card is in the graveyard, you can shuffle it back into your deck to draw 1. So it turns your Foolish Burial Goods into an upstart goblin. So let's say you already have Gorgonio in your graveyard, and you can only use Gorgonio as effect once per turn, but you want to use Foolish Burial Goods. Here's a good second target. Plus, this card works really nicely a little bit later on with Xerxeo, and I'll talk about why later on. Then we have Evil Eye Repose. Evil Eye Repose, when you activate this card, banishes a Evil Eye card from your graveyard to draw 1 card. And also, if this card is destroyed by a card effect, you can target up to 3 of your banished Evil Eye cards and return them to the graveyard. So you've got a little bit of management between your banished pile and your graveyard pile. And of course, that means that you can recover your copies of Gorgonio. So if this card gets popped, you can put back Gorgonio in your graveyard, use it again, do more searching, search cards, love life. So, removal cards. This is where things get a lot more interesting. Let's start off with the generics. Cerberus, Phoenix, Unicorn. I don't want to explain these cards. They're generic, really good cards. If you don't have them, go get them. Medusa. Medusa has a graveyard removal effect. So now's a good time to talk about the last benefit of playing Selene. Anytime Selene is equipped to certain monsters, basically the human monsters, Medusa, Xerxeo, Gorgon, who's the evolved form of Medusa, and Xerxeo, who's the evolved form of Xerxeo that looks like he's gone absolutely crazy. Anytime they are equipped with the evil eye of Selene, they gain a quick effect. And Medusa's quick effect is you can banish one card in your opponent's graveyard. Simple as that. Now, all of these cards have a maintenance cost to them, and in the standby phase, after you've used their quick effect, you have to do something as well, and it's supposed to negatively affect you, like you're hurting yourself by using the evil eye. And so Medusa's negative effect is that you have to then banish one card in your graveyard, but it isn't really too bad for you, because it says card. It could be any card. It could be a Nightmare Phoenix, a Cerberus, it could be Terraforming, or it could be something you've been planning to recover with repos. And how do we manage to pop our repos? Well, I'll tell you right now. Xerxeo's maintenance quick effect is you can target one special summon monster on the field your opponent controls and destroy it. This is really good disruption. Just during your opponent's turn, they summon, I don't know, summon out Nightmare Phoenix of their own. You could just pop it. Nah, that's not a really good target. Let's think of a better one. An Extender. IP Masquerena could be a good target to pop. Or something, Borosaur Dragon if you want. I don't know. It's up to you. Depends on what you're playing against. And you could just pop it. And the downside to him is that during the next standby phase, you have to pop one of your own cards. Now, you've got good cards for this. You could pop your Pareidolia to get a card back from your graveyard. You could pop your repos to put back cards from your banished power into the graveyard. Or Metapose Fusion. If you draw this card, you can set it to the field, bait out Disruption, or you could just use it for Xerxeo and pop it as well. Evil Eye Confrontation. Evil Eye Confrontation is a card that says you can target, if you have an Evil Eye monster, destroy a spell trap card your opponent controls. It's MST for the archetype, and it's searchable using Xerxeo and your, mainly Xerxeo, and it's recoverable, and Gorgonio, and then also it's recoverable by Medusa. So you have multiple copies of MST in this deck. But if you have Selene on the field, this card goes from being MST into Cosmic Cyclone. So because the card that it destroys will be banished, and that is very relevant in today's format. Very, very good card. I love this card. And then repos. Repos. If a card that is equipped with Selene battles an opponent's monster, that card is automatically banished at the end of damage calculation. So you will still take damage from it, but then that card will be banished, and it's a non-targeted form of banishing. It just gets rid of that card. Really, really good effect. And it's optional too, you don't have to banish either. Boss monster, Xerxeo. Xerxeo is, for all intents and purposes, your endgame card, your win condition. It's defensive, it's offensive, it's a fantastic card. And I kind of don't want to talk about him now, I want to talk about him after the Elite 2. So I'll save him for later on, but he does have a removal effect. For defensive cards, you have a lot of options. Catapultus being a big beefy boy, 1900 defense. You could just summon it and put it on the field. But also, you could target one Evil Eye spell trap card you control, and that card cannot be destroyed by card effects, by your opponent's card effects, until the end of the next turn. So, really good protection. Really great way to protect Selene from destruction. Just be aware that it doesn't protect it from your own destruction. So, I once tried to do Catapultus target Selene, and then use Xerxeo to pop it, but for its maintenance cost, but then I realized, oh no, it doesn't protect it from your card effects, only your opponent. So be aware of that. But this protects your cards, and this is also stays on the protection stays on that card even if this card leaves the field. So you can summon it to the field, protect whatever you want, link it away, and that card will survive another day. Xerxeo is a quick effect, so he can be used defensively during either player's turn. Domain has his battle effect where it does a dimension wall effect to your opponent. Dimension wall, where both players take the battle damage from a battle. So it can be a good way to kind of kill your opponent. The only thing with that card is it only works when your opponent attacks you. So you can't just say summon a monster, play domain, ram it into your opponent's monster, and then go for game. What's that Amazonist card? Amazonist Fighter. Amazonist Swordswoman was kind of like it, but Amazonist Swordswoman reduce your damage. Let me just try and find it. Amazon. Never mind. I can't be bothered. But yeah, both players take the damage from a battle. So that's all it does. Selene obviously is defensive. It protects your cards from destruction. And then we've got some nice trap cards here. 2 copies of Defeat. This card is compulsory evacuation device for the deck. You target, if you control an Evil Eye monster, you bounce one card a monster your opponent controls. but if Selene is on the field as well, you get to do 2. Very good removal, very great way for putting cards back in the extra deck. Great card. Speaking of which, we also have Mesmerism. I like this card. I want to see this card do a lot more. I haven't really tested this card too much, but it is a great card to build your board going first. When your opponent special summons a monster, activate this effect by targeting one of those summon monsters in attack position with less attack than the evil eye monster you control. Take control of that target. So it steals your opponent's monster. I have the feeling though that this card might miss the timing. So if your opponent summons a monster in the middle of a chain, you can't activate this card. But I'm not 100% certain because it has the same wording as Torrential Tribute. And Torrential the Tribute doesn't miss the timing. But maybe because this card targets the card, it has to activate when it does. I'm not too sure. So just be aware that if it misses the timing, this card could be really difficult to use against monsters that are summoned via effects in the middle of chains, and you're already only be able to use it against cards which are summoned by mechanics like Link Summons, Ritual, Synchro Summons, Fusion Summons. Not really Fusion Summons, those are effects. So Synchro, Xyz, Links. And then we have Retribution. This is a negate for your opponent's spell attack cards while you control an evil eye monster. And if Selene's on the board, this card cannot be negated, or the activation cannot be negated. I wish that this card negated monster effects too, because it would be perfect. But otherwise, yeah, it does spell attack negation, protects you from things like Lightning Storm. So, you know, it is what it is. Now, extra deck monsters that we have here. Gorgon, the evolved form of Medusa. Gates 100 attack for each evil eye card with different names in your graveyard. This card can get to good attack really quite easily. Like, I often see this card like in the mid 2000s quite easily. And then if this card is Selene, quick effect, you can target one monster effect your opponent controls and negate its effect. But then during the standby phase, you have to destroy one card this card points to. So if there's a card up or down and this card is pointed to, it will get popped by this card. This could be your opponent's card too, so if they're not paying attention or reading their cards, feel free to pop away their cards. I feel like this card would have been a lot better during, or more effective during MR4, Master Rule 4, when things had to go to a link zone. So it's probably not as good as it used to be, the pop-in effect, but you can still quick effect negate a card on the field for a link too. That's really, really good. And then Xerxeo, big boy, IP Masquerade is here. Hello IP, does link summons in your opponent's turn, so makes your nightmares a little bit better. Xerxeo, big boy, big boss monster. Takes 2+ evil eye monsters, so you can't use generic cards. If this card was link summoned using a monster with 2600 or higher attack as material, it can make a second attack during each battle phase. This isn't hard to achieve. You could use Gorgon, and her attack can be increased quite easily by cards in your graveyard if it's like mid to late game. Or you could do Selene, equip it to Xerxeo, activate 2 effects, and then it will get 1000 attack, and then that will be 2600. So you'll get the double attack off of this. And then the quick effect of this card is it can target one card your opponent controls and destroy it. Really good, really easy to do. But then the downside for this card on the maintenance is you have to negate the effect of one monster that this card currently points to. So again, just be careful with what you are summoning to the zones this card points to, so that your own cards aren't negated. But he's a very, very good, powerful card. He gets us a really good attack, and the fact that he can attack twice and is protected from all kind of card effects thanks to Selene is really, really good. Now, in terms of other endgame cards, Selene and Gorgonio are obviously your endgame triggers. It's what really powers up your monsters. There's one more effect of Gorgonio other than its search effect, and that is while your life points are lower than your opponent's, the equipped monster gains attack equal to the difference. Now, you are going to be paying a lot of life points thanks to Selene. Selene burns through your life points quite quickly. So, Gorgonio will increase your monster's attack quite nicely because you are very likely to have lower life points than your opponent. And in fact, you burn through your life points so quickly with Selene that I had to stop running Solemn Judgment in this deck because I actually killed myself with Selene in one of my test games. And you know, it makes Gorgonio really, really easy to play, and it helps you to allow your boss monster to OTK if he has to OTK, so it does a lot of damage. And so that's Evil Eye. I really, really love this deck. Let's do a full profile and do some gameplay. Basilisk at 3, Catapultus at 3, 1 Medusa, 3 Xerxeo, just 10 monsters. Then 3 Awakening, but amazing cards, such summons from the deck. 3 Confrontation, 3 Domain, and 3 Gorgonio, 2 Selene, 2 Repose, 1 Foolish Burial, 3 Burial Goods, 1 Metamorphose, triple Pot of Greed, 1 Terraforming, double Defeat, 1 Mesmerism, and double Retribution. Like I said, I do want to revisit this deck because I think it can be refined a little bit more, but for now, I absolutely love it. So, let's go into some gameplay here and let's talk about what this deck can do in action. We're playing against a guy who has a 55 card deck, which, I know I play decks that are higher than 40 sometimes because my ratios are good, but I do get worried when I see a player that does that, because either they have a really crazy deck, like maybe like Great Marju or something, and they're playing like tons of banished cards, or they just have shoved every card they wanted to into a deck, and it is what it is. So Foolish Berry of Good sent Gorgonio, and as you can see, immediately I discarded my spell and trap removal because I don't need to destroy a spell and trap right now, and then I use Gorgonio's effect to search out Domain. We then activate Domain, and then we're going to do a search with that, and then that will grab Xerxeo. And do you see how these cards link together? Obviously, this means you can be vulnerable to hand traps. Ash Blossom can ruin your day, and technically, I guess Droll could almost ruin your day. Not really. Droll wouldn't do much to you, but the other Ghost Spell could probably hurt your deck as well. So I actually want to put Call by the Grave in this deck to protect you from hand traps, but for now, I'm leaving it out because I'm not too sure what to cut, because we have a lot of good cards. So we use Xerxeo to go and search out back row removal. This is the thing with Xerxeo, you almost always want to have Selene on the card, but Selene is kind of obvious. It's like a big target that says, hey, destroy me. And so if you're going first, it might be better to go for your trap cards, but I got my trap cards early, or some of them at least, so I'm not too worried here. But what I am worried about is this deck here, Psyframe Circuit. Psyframes can be very hard to play against. They are all cards that do react to you doing something. And with Psyframe Circuit on the board, after they've summoned one of their Psyframe cards, they can immediately do a Synchro Summon. So that card can be really annoying to deal with, so I'm going to get rid of it using our Spell and Trap Negation, and I don't want to deal with that field spell at all. There's another card they have that I also don't want to deal with, but that field spell can be really annoying because they can get out Omega quite easily with that card. And back in the day when we used to have 3 copies of Omega allowed, it used to be really, really hard to beat this deck because Omega just never wants to die. It just keeps on banishing and bringing itself back to the field. That's the other card, by the way, I don't like dealing with, Psyframe Overload. That card is very, very powerful. Can't remember what it does completely, but I remember it being very annoying. And so I'm deliberately not activating my effects right now. I could put Cutter Bulbous on the field, but Psyframes, they can do something when you attack, negate, do a spell, trap, and the way you play against a Psyframe gear deck is they cannot use the effects if they have monsters on the field. So bait out something that doesn't really bother you too much, like I'm doing right now by attacking. So he summoned out Beta, and then I want to pop one of his cards. So I'm probably gonna pop Driver, because even though popping Driver is not that good, because Driver would then go to the graveyard, and I would rather it be banished, because the card that is summoned by a Psyframe effect will be banished at the end of the turn. But Overload can banish one card to then target one card on the field and banish it face down. So Overload can be really annoying, and because it banishes cards face down, those cards can be really difficult to get back. So yeah, Overload is an annoying card. But the way you play against it, Psyframe, is if you let them have a monster on the field, they can't use their card effects, their hand trap effects. So you force an activation, bait out your opponent's cards, and then you just play through while they have a monster on the board. So he very wisely banished my face down card because I think he thinks he can deal with my Xerxeo. Well, he can't actually target Xerxeo, and he can banish Selene though, so the Selene could be gotten rid of. But we have another copy of Xerxeo in our hand, so we are now going to normal summon it and do its effect, do some more searching. We've already got Selene, and right now I'm probably going to go for back row removal. Because of Overload, and Overload could do a lot of problems because it can once per turn just banish stuff. But Overload has a graveyard effect as well, so it's a bit tricky. So I'm going to go for Evil Eye Awakening. I could have gone for my Spell and Trap card and banished it actually. That would have been a really good thing to do. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and use our Evil Eye Awakening, and we're going to summon a monster from our deck. So we're going to go and get Basilius, and Basilius can summon itself to the field from your hand, but then also it can send a card to the graveyard. Now, because a Evil Eye spell track card was activated, my monster is now already on 3100 attack. So it's already above 3k because every time we use a spell track card or its own monster effect, it gets 500 attack boost, but we're losing 500 life points each time. And now we're going to banish Gorgonio, and we're going to search out one more effect, and I think this time I'm going to go and grab Confrontation, because Confrontation is really, really good. The fact that it can be MST or Cosmic Cyclone is really good. Of course, the only thing I worry about with Confrontation is that sometimes you're going to want to get rid of a card on the field before you summon your card. So Confrontation is kind of a downside in that way, but it's pretty good. I really like it. I think it's a very good archetype card. Very, very nice. Now we're going to use all 3 of our cards, and we're going to make our boss monster, Xerxeo, Ruler of the Evil Eyed. Fantastic card. I really, really like this card. I think he looks really cool. He looks very corrupt, very Resident Evil kind of. And then now we're going to use our graveyard effects. So we can use Selene, and we can banish any card in our graveyard. So Selene can get rid of Retribution, because that's doing nothing in our graveyard. And then we're going to discard one card. No, we're not. We're going to put Selene on the field, so that is activated. And then we're going to activate Selene to our monster here. So now he has his quick effect to destroy any card on the field. And then we're going to do Catabolplus effect. Just summon it from the field, graveyard to the field. And that will come there. And we're going to put it to a zone that Xerxeo doesn't point to. And then Catabolplus can do his effect. And his effect is that he can protect one of your cards on the field from being destroyed by card effects. So we're going to protect Selene, because we want to keep that equipped to our opponent for as long as possible. And then we're going to use Xerxeo's effect to destroy a card on the field, and we'll finally get rid of Overlord. Get rid of that card. Don't want to deal with it. No thank you. And then Selene reduces our life points by 500, and we're now on, he's now bigger than 3,100. I've already lost 3,000 life points thanks to my own Selene. That's one thing you have to be aware of with this deck. I normally ignore life point costs. I think life point costs for the most part are negligible, but in this deck, like I said earlier, I actually lost a duel, because twice actually I lost a duel because my life points were too low. One situation where I killed myself, and another situation where I was playing against a rubbish Dark Magician player, and then he just attacked me for game, and I didn't realize that the field spell didn't reduce the damage I take to 0, it just gives both people the damage. So I was like, ah, crap, I lost for no reason really. So my opponent activates Psychic Field Zone, a way to summon a tuner, and I'll put a tuner and a non-tuner from his banished pile back into the graveyard, and then he does an instant synchro summon, so you get Siphon Lord Satan. Now Satan normally would be a card to worry about because it can target one special summon monster both players control, including itself, and banish both of them, which would be really, really annoying, but Selene protects us from target effects, so we aren't worried about that at all. One thing I forgot to mention, Evil Eye Selene will trigger also on your maintenance cost, because it's a separate effect. So if you use your quick effect, you'll gain 500 attack for that, but then in the next turn when you have to do the maintenance cost, you will get another 500 attack for that. So we're already on 3,600. So it is really, really quick to easy to burn through your card. Basically, you got to think that every time you use your quick effect, you're gonna lose 1,000 life points, but then your monster's gonna gain 1,000 attack. So just think of it like that. Now, one thing that's good about Pareidolia is it's not the type of field spell where you have to feel like you've got to keep all the copies in the field. It's like the Hidden City for Subterrors in a way, where the best part of the effect is just to activate the card to get your search out. So feel free to activate another copy on another one, because the card is recoverable. You can get it back with Medusa, and yeah, I think Medusa is the main way to get a spell track card back from the graveyard. So we know what's up in the third copy of Xerxeo that we have. Do more searching. This deck is really consistent. I love this deck. I really, really love this deck. Man, there aren't many decks where... There are lots of decks that I like. But there aren't many decks where I'm like, yo, I can do whatever I want with this deck. And I can't wait to see what this deck is a little bit more like when I specialize in it, where I'm thinking that I might cut some of the cards out and put more generic cards, like more special summon cards, so we could do more link summons or something like that. Because I think this deck could even be run as a combo deck potentially, because it's got good, easy to use extenders. But then you could also use like Trap Trick and do like a trap heavy version of the deck, because Fiend Griefin supports this deck, And Fiendish Rhino Warrior is a good way to put Catabolpus in the graveyard. And then you could do something like Scarm, send Burning Abyss Scarm to the graveyard. And then that will search out your Basilisk and or Tall Guy from the Underworld. So there's so much you can do. Plus your Link 2, the Gorgon, only requires one Evil Eye monster. You can't summon your Link 3 with non-Evil Eye monsters, but your Link 2 can be just, as long as you use one Evil Eye monster, you can summon it out. So Tour Guide is an instant Link 2, which is really, really good. If the Link 2 was an extender, I would definitely be playing Tour Guide, but it's not. It's more of a like a defensive, like negate kind of card. So yeah, we don't necessarily need it. But maybe you guys see now why I think this deck doesn't need Pot of Extravagance. This deck could probably run well without it. In fact, I probably will drop Pot of Extravagance. I'm not 100% sure what it would be for, but I think this deck doesn't need it at all. I think it does well enough for searching as it is. So, Boss Monster's getting bigger, isn't he? We've destroyed more cards. He's now 4,600 and immune to everything except Kaijus. And Celine's doing something. Oh, we are doing the maintenance cost for Xerxeo because we used his effect. And so he destroyed our Pareidolia. And then Pareidolia is going to get us another copy of Xerxeo back from the graveyard. So that's always good. And then we can use Xerxeo again to do more stuff. But now our opponent activates his own copy of Foolish Burial Goods. And yeah, look at my life points. Oh my god, I've taken no battle damage from my opponent. None whatsoever. But I'm already down to 2,500 life points. That's kind of crazy with this deck. I wonder... I have to test it more, but I wonder if that could be actually too much. And it's probably because we're using so many Evil Eye cards. And I guess technically speaking, like, we don't have to play so many Evil Eye cards. You do want a good number because Gorgonio's effect requires you to discard an Evil Eye card. But other than that, you don't have to. So we could probably just play like the Equip Spell cards and a couple other cards. But you don't need the Spell and Trap removal. You don't need the trap cards, really. You can probably play generic cards. And that might make the cost of thing a little bit easier. But yeah. Anyway, our opponent scooped up because we had game there. And yeah, that's Evil Eye. I love this deck. I thought this deck is really, really good. I think it's fantastic. But it's Halloween week and I want to move on to some other spooky decks. If you guys have suggestions, please feel free to leave them around in the comments down below. And oh, if anybody knows how to play Evil Eye and is more experienced with the deck than I am, or you decide to build it yourself after watching this video, let me know what your experiences have been with this deck, because I think this deck has so much potential to be a good deck. And man, once I tested it out more, rebuild this tier list, I think this is definitely going to make the tier list, because I think Evil Eyes have everything they need to be a really, really good deck. Anyway guys, thank you as always for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you soon. Take care.